On this week's episode of Damsels in the DMs.
I can't help but be an activist in my work because I literally am just talking all day and creating safe spaces for people when I curate events and when I make a stage and a platform. And I have a responsibility to defend those people in those spaces and stand by the things that I believe because of mistreatment I've faced as like a Black, fat, queer man operating in a very like not that world. And so if I am no longer compromising on how people will treat me, I can't do that. I can't mistreat other people, and I also can't let other people be mistreated in front of me.
This message is intended as a reminder that we are not licensed professionals, not psychiatrists or psychologists. If you have a serious problem, please seek professional help. The National Suicide Hotline is 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-8255.
There's some damsels in the DM.
Yes, queen.
Tell us what's the vibe. There's some damsels in the DM. Please tell us what's the vibe. DMs, yeah we see them, yeah we read them. DMs, we don't need them, we just leave them.
Please.
Yeah.
It's going down in the DMs. Bye.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Damsels in the DMs. I'm Osh.
And I'm Alejandro.
And we're back, me and you, baby.
I'm excited. It's so good to finally see you. It's been quite some time. My goodness.
It's been quite some time. We're building on episodes, me and you. We're gonna do it. We're gonna get back to it being equal because I feel like it's either you and Lauren or me and Lauren, and I miss you.
You know, I miss you too. It's just been non-stop. I feel like for both of us, it's just But what is? I think that's something that I'm really grateful for too. You know, in spite of how stressful it can be, you know, having opportunities to just like let ourselves shine in the best way possible. It's like, okay, I'm here for it.
Yes, I love that. You mentioned something about the full moon just off air, and I have been trying to blame someone or something for my mood this week. I went out on Saturday night and I had like a very, tiring Sunday. It went into Monday and I'm like, you know what? Tuesday I'll feel better. Tuesday to this morning, I could not wake up. Like I was like, I'm so exhausted. I feel like I'm so drained and I want to have energy. Like I love having my mornings and, having my morning routines. That's what like keeps me going. But lately, or just this week, I feel like I've just been like pushing it.
Yeah, same. I don't know. I've been struggling with going to sleep and falling asleep. And then obviously that leads to having trouble waking up fully in the morning. But yeah, speaking of Saturday, by the time this comes out, it'll be way after the fact, but I was excited because we had our Outfest premiere for Undocumented Tales, so that was like a crazy emotionally exciting day for the whole team. And I hadn't seen the episode. I hadn't seen really any of the footage except for like the trailer, so being able to like be present with everyone in the audience and to see people's reaction, to see the whole episode unfold and to see everyone shining as brightly as they did was amazing. But in addition, to experience the audience's reaction to my character and like the lines that I had. I mean, my character was a little like snarky, like nah, little diva, whatever. But yeah, there's something really special about, having people either identify with it or respond to it in such a way where it's just like, oh, they're kind of getting into this. This is cool. Have you ever had an experience like that?
I feel like for me, it's only with class because I haven't been out in the field like you with, you're doing so much. You're really, really like doing all these amazing projects and stuff that gets not attention, but like seen by a lot of people, which is really cool. I've never had that opportunity, nor have I put myself out there for that to do that. But it would be really cool to have, some. I feel like with acting classes, is the furthest I can go with feeling that way. And we do have this moment. I actually really love this new acting class that I'm in because it kind of feels like like how you have your Q&As after, everyone sees your film. And it feels like that because we do our performances and then we sit there with like our scene partner and everyone, we like talk about it and we talk about our experiences. So like that's the only feeling that I've gotten from something like that. But yeah.
It's special. Well, speaking of getting up there and putting it all out there for an audience, today's guest, Nicco Diaz of the Nuyorican Poets Cafe, poet and cultural curator from the Bronx, is on to join us. And oh my goodness, I'm so excited for not only the work that he's doing on a personal level, but the fact that he is being an activist for many communities. It's super exciting. I'm very thrilled that he was willing to come on and join us today.
And I'm really excited for you guys to listen to this episode because we get a little treat in the middle of it. We get a little present from him, which is really nice.
A gift of poetry, yes. So tune in, get excited, and strap up. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a wild ride. Here we go.
Let's do it.
Hello, Nicco. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and join us here on the podcast. How are you?
Of course, I am doing well. Busy day, as I said. We just had a school visit earlier today with students from Columbia University at the cafe. And then I had a meeting with La Bruja, did lunch in between. So it's been a very productive, busy day, but no complaints on this end.
Awesome. And yesterday was another open mic, you said?
Yeah. So we do our Monday night open mics every Monday. And so yesterday was a great one because we were celebrating La Bruja's 27th anniversary of being La Bruja. So she did a opening performance. And before she went up, I performed one of her poems that I love, Lola. It's on YouTube. But yeah, so I did a cover of her poem. So yeah, it's great.
And Nicco, for the listeners who don't know or are not aware, can you tell us what the Poets Cafe is and who La Bruja is too?
Of course. So the Nuyorican Poets Cafe is a cultural institution. It has been a signature staple of the New York City nightlife scene for emerging artists since 1973. So we're just entering our 50th years of existence. And legends have been born there, like countless folks who were big in not just poetry, but in theater, hip hop, jazz, you name it, we have a foot in it. But one of our signature things is slam poetry. It was really brought to the mainstream there. It started in Chicago, then it was brought over to us, and we've kind of been holding it down ever since. So that's the Nuyorican Poets Cafe. It's in the Lower East Side, and we own the building. So it's been against the pressures of gentrification and different things. It's still existing, which is a huge accomplishment. And then La Bruja is my boss, the executive director of the cafe, Nuyorican poet. She's been in the game for over 30 years, but 27 as La Bruja. And she was appointed to executive director last February. And so I'm her chief of staff. So, and it's crazy, our work together, how we first interacted was, the school visit that I did today for Columbia University students. She did a school visit to my high school when I was 15 in East Carolina. So she was the whole reason that I got put onto spoken word in the first place. And been a fan ever since. And then, I was a closet poet for a long time and then didn't start performing in earnest till last year. And so as she became executive director, I started performing at the cafe, kind of full circle moments. And then she hired me this last October to support her and the work. So yeah, that's a little bit about Nuyorican and La Bruja.
Well, congrats for being hired as chief of staff. That's a huge accomplishment, especially for someone to work for someone who's so like an icon, I would say, at the Poets Cafe, right? And for being involved for that long, like that is a feat. Can you tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from? And then I know that you said that you were introduced to the Poets Cafe and to her when you were in high school. So your relationship with like writing and poetry, just all of the good stuff. Take us back.
Yeah, well, I'm Sagittarius. So a little bit about me. So I'm Nuyorican. So my parents were both born in New York, but on my mom's side, my grandmother was born here, so even farther back. And then my dad, his mom came from Puerto Rico. So, but they grew up both in Spanish Harlem, and then met, and then had a family. And so I'm the first from their marriage, and so I come from a Nuyorican background myself, but grew up between the Bronx and East Harlem. So I rep both, and still live in the Bronx today, not even like a mile away from where my mom lives. But I was the first person in my family to go away to college. So I went to Cornell University in upstate New York, and was kind of like the proverbial speck in the grits, like a person of color in a majority white institution. But coming from a low income background, a predominantly Latino community, there was a culture shock. But I also had very clear eyes on the prize of like what I was set to do there. And so I ended up really, finding the English major and Latino studies minor as like a safe space for me academically. So I've always loved writing and literature. And that goes back to my days in third grade when I wrote my first poem, and inspired by an Edgar Allan Poe piece. And so from there, I always knew I loved literature and poetry. But, coming from a first gen family, they're like, oh, you should be a doctor, like do that. So I was pre-med originally, but then that quickly changed. And I ended up working in education for 10 years after graduating college. So that took me to Miami, it took me to Boston, finally back to New York. And then pandemic hit, and I was, making six figures working at a high performing charter network in New York City. And all of a sudden, that was gone. And so I went from literally, being very comfortable with the title, the salary, all this kind of stuff, to like being on the phone every day in the summer of 2020, like calling unemployment, like, where's my money? I need to, stress. And so in that kind of like rug being pulled from under me, I found like, poetry again. And it was just a mental health practice to help me get through anxiety and depression during the pandemic. But then it really became like, who am I when I'm stripped of everything? It's like, I'm an artist, I'm a poet. And so started writing again, performing, even though I have terrible stage fright, like I overcame all that. So now like doing the thing, curating events in the Bronx, working at the cafe and stuff.
Good on you.
Thank you.
Public speaking for me is like the scariest thing too. So really good on you for, for getting up there and
Yeah.
love into whoever's listening.
Yeah,
Well,
for sure.
I truly believe in jumping into situations that make us feel uncomfortable, because I feel like there's always something that we can learn either about the experience, about ourselves. And I'm also curious, in what ways have you been surprised by your own ability to get up on stage, or even feedback from people who are in attendance?
Yeah, I had a conversation with one of the students from Columbia today, and a lot of my journey, even before like being an artist and poet, like a lot of my journey, it was healing the wounds that I had from childhood and the ways it manifested into unhealthy relationships that I had with friends, family, romantic partners, and a lot of the people pleasing that I needed to do, and losing that to just embrace my truth, as uncomfortable as that is for anyone, and not settling for anything anymore. And so I told her, I was like, the greatest thing you can do in your life is surprise yourself. Isn't it a joy every single time you like, I didn't know I was capable of that, but wow, I did that. It's thrilling. It's the most fun you'll ever have is with yourself and surprising yourself. So the biggest thing that I've been surprised by is just like my boldness. I think I would say is like I have a pretty spicy sense of humor, and I like a lot of my earlier poetry when I started was like heartbreak and like depressing, and then like there's still a lot of that, but I like to take risks now because as a queer poet, I'm all about like talking about subversive topics, and like my identity is inherently subversive. So in my poetry, I always sprinkle that in. And one of the spiciest poems that I have is called True Intimacy, in which like for a large part of the poem, like I'm simulating like dirty talk while I'm having sex. And I've done this at erotic open mics in the Bronx. That was the first time I did it. I wrote it on the ride there. I was like, oh, I need an erotic poem. I don't really write that naturally, that kind of poetry. So I did that, and the reaction was great. And now I perform that piece regularly, and it always gets a lot of cool hits. And for me, it's important to say that poem out loud because I hear so much, like erotic poetry is very commonplace with straight poets. It's like, oh, I mean, like, and you kind of hear the same things, but like queer poets, there isn't always that space for that. And I'm like, I'm a very, sexual person, and I feel very comfortable and sex positive about anybody engaging in anything that gives them pleasure. So why not? Let me try it out. So yeah, that was probably the most surprising poem that I've written and performed. And it was, like you said, like uncomfortable. I was scared to do it, but like after doing it, it was like, oh, this okay, I need to do more stuff like this. So yeah.
With songs, like like music, I feel like it's also a lot of straight men who sing like they're just very, like dirty and sexual in their lyrics, but I don't see enough LGBTQ folks doing that.
Yeah. And even like women, female artists like WAP was so scandalous because it was like two women like talking about like how good it is. And when it made those waves, it like really challenged like what was appropriate for hip hop or rap or pop music, and really challenging those dynamics and making commonplace taboo or like fringe conversations. It's like, why are those on the margin? So yeah.
But I do remember a time when Lil Kim, Foxy Brown, Shauna, Trina, they were also on the radio waves doing similar things. So, although it's not completely new, it is nice to see that there are still efforts being made for important voices to be shared about intimate and sexual experiences that might be had.
Yeah, no, it's like it's important to like for those conversations to take center stage. It's like, why are they like, I don't know, like there are so many, like Lil Nas X is like the one mainstream queer rapper, but there's a lot more that came before him and more that will come after. And so how are we having conversations about, men on man love or women on women love and the intimacy and making that okay? Because when I think about my own coming out story and like the struggles that I have when it comes to connecting, not just sexually, but like intimately with emotionally with a man, it's hard to like surrender and do that. And there's a lot of shame growing up, like in a Latino household, very like Catholic influence. There's just like a lot of like, this still feels wrong.
Yeah.
And overcoming that to like be like, no, I deserve to feel beheld. I deserve to be Little Spoon, like it's okay to want that, So yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, you're in such a unique position of empowering not only yourself, but others. Do you see yourself as a community advocate?
Yes. And
You seemed apprehensive.
Yeah, I was. Because when I was in college, I don't think advocate is the word. I think activist is sort of where I feel more comfortable now. And I didn't always feel that way because in college there was like a scary word, taboo. Like it was like, if you're an activist, you're gonna get kicked off campus and you're not gonna get your degree. And like I didn't have that luxury to risk it. So I felt very like, I'm not an activist, but like I'm gonna be a student leader and like work with administration to make policy changes and do all that kind of stuff. But now, like I can't help but be an activist in my work because I literally am just talking all day and creating safe spaces for people when I curate events and when I make a stage and a platform. And I have a responsibility to defend those people in those spaces and stand by the things that I believe because of mistreatment I've faced as like a Black, fat, queer man operating in a very like not that world. And so if I am no longer compromising on how people will treat me, I can't do that. I can't mistreat other people, and I also can't let other people be mistreated in front of me. So that makes me an activist because a lot of my work is about creating spaces where spaces don't exist, about pushing conversation, pushing individuals, and everything that I do. Like as simple as like painting my nails, like that is an act of revolution in a lot of ways. And people are like, oh my God, I love your nails and whatever. But how many other people who don't love my nails or don't say that? So definitely, I feel like it's so important for me to be an activist for all the things that I care about and for all the people who don't have the skill that I have, right, with communicating, with the skills that I have professionally from, you know, navigating these halls of power and figuring it out and being able to do that. And like, I'm like, who better than me to defend those folks?
Who is the Nuyorican Poets Cafe for?
Oh man, I like to say like the freaks, geeks, people of the street. It's like, from its inception, a lot of our founders were queer men of the Nuyorican experience, and so with that, like, right, like it's inherently queer, it's inherently founded for people of color, I think first and foremost, but really, like, there's also a lot of opportunity for women to have a space in it, like white women through the connections with feminism. So like, I feel like the Nuyorican Poets Cafe is anybody who is trying to do the work personally, politically, to challenge a lot of the mores and systems of oppression that exists through performance. And it's primarily performance because we have the stage. It's always been about poetry being spoken out loud and not just written in a book or in text, because while that's important and there's a huge impact there, a lot of what publishing companies promote is like you have to fit a certain archetype, or your poetry needs to look a particular way, and it's not accessible to everyone. And inherently, the English language is oppressive. And like what's so great about Nuyorican poetry is that it's bilingual. So much of it, and it flows back and forth between Spanish and English. And so, yeah, that's I would say that's who the cafe is for.
Okay, so I'm gonna be in New York in June for like 10 days, and I really want to come as an audience member. How, like, is it a membership community, like, like there, like, or is it open? How do you get tickets? Like, I
Yeah.
actually really want to know.
Well, you can follow us on Instagram at Nuyorican Poets Cafe. And then on our link tree, you can get linked to our events calendar. From there, you can click whatever event you want. And we do events Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays every week. And then there's sometimes special events that happen on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays as well, and Sundays. So check the events calendar. You can buy tickets. Our most expensive event is our Friday Night Slam, which sells out every single week. And those are our champions from other slams. So it's like the creme de la creme of like poets. And it's always a beautiful experience, always really fun. Hosted by Jack Poetic. So yeah.
So I want to go back to La Bruja, Caridad de la Luz. And it sounds like you've had so much time to work so closely with her. And I'm just curious, what do you think are some important lessons that you've learned from your relationship with her, or seeing her shine, or working with her?
The fact that, I get to work with my hero and mentor and every single day, and like as closely as we work, and doing the amazing things that we've been able to do in spite of the obstacles that we've had to face. It's been, the Nuyorican Poets Cafe is a 50-year-old institution, but doesn't have a 50-year-old infrastructure. There's just a lot of things that we're just like reinventing the wheel with, particularly post-pandemic, that we're like just learning on the job and combating a pretty, machismo culture that has existed by extension of being Nuyorican, and a lot of those factors. And so to have a woman of color at the helm with a queer man as her chief of staff, we're like really dealing with a lot of obstacles just culturally and fundamentally. And every day though, like her work ethic is just incredible. Like she never gives up. She's always on it, very much cares, takes this work very seriously, and has a clear sense of her purpose and sort of like her morals. And I've never met a person who's just like so the same person that she is on stage is the same person she is when she steps off stage. And that alignment and consistency is something I've been modeling as well and learning from her. That's one lesson. So I think alignment is key. I think the second thing that I've learned from her is just always to have fun. And particularly like I get stage fright, and she goes up there and she's just natural, like easy breezy, beautiful cover girl. And I'm like,
Yeah.
like holding the mic and really thinking about my next thing, whatever. And she's like, if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. And so I think that is one piece of it. But also, like, even when, when we do stool visits or we have students, like, I learned how to teach a particular way that was very regimented and organized. And poetry should not look like that, right? If you want poets to flourish, creativity to, like, you need to, like, go with the flow a little bit more. So, yeah, I would say, like, alignment, have fun with it. And the third, not compromising either. Yeah. It's like, as an artist, there's some things you don't need to compromise for, no matter what. So those are the big three.
Would it be putting you too much on the spot to ask you to recite like a small, short little thing?
You want me to do a poem?
Oh.
Maybe.
Of course. I mean, I have some memorized. Okay, so this one is called "Oh Uptown," and it is written. It's a sonnet, so a Shakespearean sonnet written about my love for where I'm from, Uptown New York, which will be described in the poem. Oh, Uptown, how do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I love thee and thy hoods, Bronx, Harlem, the Heights, a triumph of realness in sounds, smells, and sights. Oh, how thou art misjudged, yet you do amaze, for beating all the odds and doing so with grace. I love thee for thy slang, that ass, mad eye, no cap brick city son. Yo, I'm OD tight. My guy, say with thy chest, fuck out my face. I love thee for thy vibes, teteos, y coros, bright flashing lights, milky clouds of hookah smoke, dembo booming, perreo, true tesoros. Here, we honor our cultura, our kinfolk. Our love is lit. Our love cannot be deterred. So without further ado, can I get a year? And then use it.
You're
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, that's a crowd pleaser. It's one of the pieces I perform a lot, and that's "Oh Uptown."
beautiful.
I love that it reminds me of was it Plenas? Plenas were like the call and response songs, right? Where it's just like the musicians sing something and then it's like the audience is supposed to
call and
respond back
response.
to
Yeah.
that. So that's kind of reminds me of that. And what a gift it was, a true tesoro.
Yes.
Well, we're in April right now. So
National
what
Poetry
other
Month.
things do you have in the works for National Poetry Month?
Well, yeah, like I said, it's National Poetry Month, and we have a lot happening. So, in addition to inheriting the cafe and the legacy and doing all the work to protect it, we are also preparing for a 3-year renovation. We got a $24 million grant from New York City, and the entire building is getting renovated. So we're going to have two theaters, elevator, 4 floors. It's going to be amazing.
Oh my God.
And so we're preparing for that for the end of this year, anywhere from September to January. So as we prepare for that, I'm like, okay, we got to maximize what we're doing here at the cafe. So for National Poetry Month, we're increasing our programming. We're doubling it up. So we're adding a program Monday, Wednesday, and Friday every single day. So basically giving more people opportunities to have a stage and a place to call their own. So that's happening for National Poetry Month. And then, like, personally, like, I know that I'm really booked and busy. Like, I have other open mics that I'm hosting in the Bronx. I have a feature writing workshop that I'm hosting. So in addition to, like, the stuff of, like, just holding it down for the cafe, I also have, like, my own poetry things that are happening throughout New York City and all of that. So it is very busy.
In addition to where the Nuyorican Poets Cafe is located, are there any other spots that you like performing at?
Well, so yes, I have my home bar, Barrio BX, in Deck. So I started hosting an open mic there in September, and it's been growing and getting progressively bigger. So I love performing there. Obviously, like, that's like, my community, and like they come from the Bronx, and so, and it's not as far as the cafe, which is in the Lower East Side. So it's a much shorter Uber ride. So Barrio BX is a great place to perform. And I've also performed at the Bowery Poetry Club. which is like in the Lower East Side, not too far from the cafe, and they have this LGBTQ open mic called Endless Blue. So yeah, those are like probably my favorite two places to perform.
I can't wait to check these spots out whenever I'm in New York again. Damn,
Yeah,
that
pull
sounds
up, let
fun.
me know. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
If you're there in June, we should go together.
Yeah, that would be so much fun.
June is gonna be busy. It's Pride Month.
That's true.
Oh
And I'm
God,
gonna
it's
be
crazy.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be performing at Queen's Pride. So
Yes, congratulations.
thank you, yeah.
What are some personal goals that you
Oh, we're
have?
gonna ask the same question.
Oh,
Personal goals.
alignment. Yes, let's keep it.
Your personal goals. I'm a baby poet, I would like to say. Like, even though like I've been writing poetry for a long time, I published a few places, but I'm not nearly as robust. So I've been writing like chapbooks and working on a collection of poetry for a while. So I definitely want to publish and like go ham before the end of the year because I want to host my launch party at the cafe before we close our doors. So that kind of puts like a little bit of like pressure on me. It's like, okay, I know we're gonna close by this date. That means I need to have my shit together to publish by this point. So definitely publishing a collection of poetry this year. And I think I'm also like more broadly, like I just love writing in general and literature. In addition to hosting open mics at a restaurant in the Bronx, I also host a book club there. So we bring authors who come in and like we've had Pulitzer Prize winners, New York Times bestselling authors, authors of classics come in to the restaurant and and I moderate a Q&A with them about what it was like writing the book, what did they hope to achieve, and then doing a Q&A with our audience members. So I mean, I want to write a novel. I want to get, like I want to be a literary figure. That's definitely like my goal. But not losing sight of still like being here in the Bronx, doing the work that's important to me to provide more literary spaces because right now the Bronx is like a book desert. Like there's only one brick and mortar bookstore in the entire borough.
Wow.
And yeah, and like there's a lot of pop-up bookstores or like online bookstores that are like Bronx facing, but like, you know, the last Barnes and Nobles was torn down like probably like this point 8 years ago, something like that, 10 years ago. So it's an injustice. And so we have so much talent here. This is the birthplace of hip hop. And so making it like a movement up here with there's so many creatives curating these spaces and doing this kind of work is so much part of what I hope to do. So continue being an activist, doing that kind of work, and who knows? I don't know. I want to take some acting classes too. I've never done acting classes. I'm naturally dramatic. So yeah, doing some of that stuff. So I don't know. Labru has a great example where she just kind of did what she wanted to do with her career. She did acting, she did hip hop, she did poetry always, and she theater. So she's definitely been a great example of like I just do whatever I want as like the things get interesting.
The number one thing that a lot of people say after they've had a performance or like done something is, oh, it wasn't as bad as I thought. Mm-hmm. And that's literally exactly what goes through most of our minds. It's like we'll do it and then we'll like psych ourselves out. And there's that voice in your head that's like, you're not good enough or you suck, you did it all. Like, this voice that lies to you. And then you go ahead and you do it and you watch it back or you like talk to people and you're like, or the feeling that you get after is like, wow, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. If you're not comfortable, you're not growing.
That's true. In the midst of all that you're accomplishing, how do you keep yourself grounded? Like, what are some either healthy habits or certain things that you start your day with?
Morning rituals.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Girlies.
I am not a morning person. I will say that quite frankly, what I love about poetry is that it's a very much like we're vampires and creatures of the night. But when I do wake up noonish, some days 11 others, but I love starting my day with like hydrating first thing and foremost because I know that also helps you stay up and blah 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 blah. So I do that. I like drinking peppermint tea to just breathe and clear. And I always like it. Also, is like when I did some reading about like writing, even getting ritualistic and approaching writing. And so make a tea, and then I have my journal, I put like some candles, and I like journaling at the beginning of the day. So I've had this journal here that I like just, this is not a poetry journal. It's like really like just reflecting, getting out the gunk, the mental hygiene stuff. I find that helps. And so, yeah, obviously journaling in the morning, drinking that cup of tea, and then like just pouring out the to-do list as well in another notebook. So it's like, I guess I do writing. Like I write to help me with stuff. And then before I know it, I have to be at the cafe pretty much. So those are some of like my go-to rituals. Nothing too complicated because again, I'm not a morning person, and before I know it, I got to be like out the door. So if I do have that morning time, it's like centering myself, doing some reflection, and getting organized.
Speaking of the morning rituals that you were saying about putting rituals into your craft, have you read Twyla Tharp's book?
Mm-mm.
Hold on. She's a choreographer. I think she did ballet. She writes about the creative habit.
Okay.
And I'm such a book girly, and I'm such like a self-help book girly that I do too many, and I just need to stick to a couple and really just, master a couple books. But yeah, this is the cover of it.
Okay.
Long
The
nails
creative habit. Learn it and use it for life.
Yes, and
Twyla
she talks
Tharp.
about rituals and creating these rituals to stay creative and to stay, motivated in your craft. Especially because artists and creatives are just like, we go through a lot. We really do. And it's, we come from all different backgrounds. We have different experiences, and we feel a lot. I feel like more than the general population. Or we have to like, maybe not, that's not really a good sentence, but we express our feelings a lot more, and we show it in our art, and we are like entertaining our feelings for everyone else to see. So I think it's really good for us to like put our mental health first and like really do little things. Like you said, like 1 or 2 things in the morning, that's all you really need. Even just one thing, like your peppermint tea, like that gets you, like being your best self in the morning, or literally helps you stay a little bit grounded.
Yeah, very grounded. I mean, I love my peppermint tea. I used to not be a tea drinker before the pandemic, but obviously that needed to change, and I started doing it. And what I found was just like having that little moment of like, I need the time that it takes is always going to be the time that it takes to heat this water. The time that it takes for my tea to steep is going to be the time that it takes. And there's something, I don't know, like meditative about that. And also, I'm engaging in a process that humans have been doing for a long time. People have been making tea forever. And I'm sitting in the same 6-minute window that every other person who's made a cup of tea has. And there's something like oddly comforting about that. Like this cup of tea, this process has not changed very much since the beginning of time. So collective unconscious, I don't know, like I think tea is a fascinating drink. I love tea now. I didn't always, but now.
That's so cool. I like the way you describe that. That's really interesting. Because yeah, it is the same amount of time for everybody to heat up the water and just keep it moving.
And you can put your tea in longer, but recommended is like, 6 minutes. That's it,
I love it. On a more lighthearted note, tell us, what is the funniest or wildest, most intriguing, or most inspirational DM that you've ever received?
Actually, I'll just pull it up.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Pull it up.
We like primary sources here.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Business stuff. I had to translate it because I book an artist for my open mic on the 12th. I like having like live art there just to give people like something else to do. It's a creative space. Why not give an opportunity? So he sent me. I was featured in Time Out magazine as like iconic New Yorkers saying what it takes to be a New Yorker. And I posted it, but he just found the post and sent it to me. And I was like, oh yeah, that's me. And then he wrote, "Te estamos dando seguimiento." And that means like, we're watching you, we're following you. Like, like there's like sort of like people in my corner. And so that was like in person. That was like the most intriguing TM. But like I've had a lot of random conversations of people being like, yo, I've seen what you've been doing. Like the world is your oyster. Keep it up. Like we believe in you. So yeah, that whole notion of like, I try not to think about it too much because then it gets too scary. Like I don't like that. I'm just having fun. Like we're doing the work. I'm living my dream, and I was so afraid to do this for so long, and to be doing it, and to be as happy as I am, and to be as successful as I am so quickly is just like, I feel like I'm finally right. Like I was lost and wrong for a while, and so to feel that is incredible. So yeah, that was like the most recent thing.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And that has to be motivating and inspiring to just keep doing all that you're doing. I mean,
yeah. And it's also like, I spent so much time consumed by like others' expectations of me and leaning into my weaknesses or trying to fix my weaknesses as a leader, as a person, and like focusing on the flaws as opposed to like really leaning into my strengths and what's gonna make me happy, and I felt like I owed it to myself to take that risk, and boom, it's so rewarding, and it's not without its trials, tribulations, and stressors. Every job has its bullshit, but like it's so much worth. I don't know, like I just feel like the work I do matters, and that's been a different kind of motivation.
Okay, so we're going to go into the DM of the week, and
Yes.
they asked, what surprises you the most when you put words on a page?
What surprises me the most when I put words on a page? How fire my stuff is.
ooh, okay.
So this is like half joking, half serious, but like, so a lot of poetry is like doing writing workshops or participating in writing workshops, not just like facilitating them. I love a workshop because, an open mic is just, you get to perform and you get to do what it is that you do. Or writing workshops in person, virtual, it's like, we all respond to the same prompt. So it's cool to see how other people interpret things and what comes out of the same inspiration point. It's fascinating. And I'm really good at like first draft poems, like coming out real quick and boom. So I'm always like really surprised to see like, okay, where did I take this? Like, what was my angle? And like, how did I attack this prompt to come up with something that was creative, but also authentic? And yeah, I really love seeing where my mind goes when I'm like put in parameters. Because, as fellow creatives, creativity thrives when there are limitations. So having like a very like specific prompt is like, okay, like how are we doing this?
Nicco, I have a question for you. Have you ever experienced like writer's block or poet's block? And how have you combated that or, gotten to the other side of that?
So no, what I will say is I'm experiencing right now is like a dry spell, is because like I haven't been sitting down to write as much as I should. And that is less of a function of lack of inspiration and more of lack of discipline, or just I'm been really busy and like doing all the things. So I need to do better about protecting the time. But I will say I had like I guess a mentor, JP Infante. He's a short story writer here in New York, Dominican, and he was like one of the first people that like saw my writing, was like, yo, that's really interesting. He said that like normally if there's writer's block, it means that you're not digging deep enough. If you really dig deep and really think about who you are, the things you've been through, and like often the places that we want to run away from are the places we should go first. And so there's always more exploring to do, whether it's your childhood, relationship with your parents, your identity, where you are now, reflecting on different things. Like I really am not like, knock on wood, like I haven't experienced writer's block where it's like, it's like there's always something. And also like doing like these writing workshops is so key. Like I think having somebody else facilitate the writing experience and trusting them to take me on the road and see what stuff I come up with. So yeah, I don't know.
No, that's cool. It's actually you're blessed to be able to, do what you love and also not like words just flow to you, which is really cool to have that talent, that skill.
Oh, Nicco, you have been such a gift. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much again for taking the time out of your busy schedule during National Poetry Month to come and talk to us here on the podcast. But before we let you go, please tell us and our listeners where we can find you, how we can keep up with Nuyorican Poets Cafe, and anything else that you want to tell us about. Also, keep in mind, whenever you're ready with your book, come back and visit us because we want to hear more about that too. But go on. Sorry.
No pressure. No pressure, Alejandro. No, I did it to myself. I shouldn't have said it if I didn't want people to know.
Right?
Yeah, this is what happens with artists. I say it to the world, and now like there's expectation, and now I can't buckle under pressure. But we'll do it. No, thank you so much, first of all, for having me. This has been a pleasure. Like I said, I love talking and engaging, and you all have been amazing. So I appreciate you. So if you all are interested in keeping up with the things that I have going on, either in my own artistry or through the work I do at the cafe, you can follow me at Nicco Diaz, NICCODIAZ.NYC on IG. And then you can also follow me, the cafe at Nuyorican Poets Cafe, and UYORICAN Poets Cafe. So yeah, that's us. And like, we just got a lot of amazing things happening, and it's just gonna get more and more and bigger, like, as like we really have our eye on the prize. And I think poetry is really having a moment right now, because post-pandemic, like, I think people realize like how uncentered they were, and mental health was in an all-time decline, and with therapy, mental health support not being as accessible as it could be, poetry provides an opportunity to have a community and provide healing space where it's cheap and inaccessible. So either it's people speaking their truth or hearing something that is a truth they didn't even consider. I think poetry is really like optimal for that. So I'm excited for what we have planned and bring poetry to the masses.
Well, thank you so much again. And until next time, we will see you soon.
Well, you guys, this was an incredible episode. I know that me and Alejandro both had an amazing opportunity to talk to Nicco. Let us know your thoughts, please, as always, because we are looking to hear from you. We love your DMs that you send us, because that's a way for you to even connect with the guest, which is really cool, and a really cool way for you guys to connect and be a part of the show, because you guys are a part of our family. So thank you for sending those DMs, and please keep on sending.
Yeah, those DMs help us identify who we can reach out to for new conversations and to understand what you want to continue learning about or growing within. So DMs are open, our letters we're always accepting letters. We're always accepting voicemails or anything that you want that's going to clue us into how we can help you grow in either your daily practices, your morning routines, healthy habits, and just making a positive impact in this beautiful thing called life.
And please rate and review, subscribe, do all the things you gotta do to let us know how we're doing, because it's important to us too.
All right, so it's been another episode of Damsels in the DMs.
Until next time,
it's going down in the DMs. Bye.
DMs, we don't need them, we just leave them.
Please.
Yeah.
It's going down in the DMs. Bye.